I'm the foolish, beautiful fake young master. In my previous life, after losing the fight for the family fortune to the true heir, I became his canary, pampered and indulged for more than a decade. One day I woke up, transported back to the exact moment he despised me the most. At that instant, I was forcing him to kneel and tie my shoelaces. Meeting his gaze, full of humiliation and hatred, I blurted out without thinking, "Husband, rub my legs too. They hurt." He sneered. "What game are you playing this time?" Late at night, the fetal movements kept me restless. Clutching a pillow, I drowsily crawled into his bed. His voice came out cold as ice. "Carrying someone else's bastard and you still dare to come begging for my comfort?" I grabbed his hand and pressed it against my slightly rounded belly. "This is your pup." Chapter 1, Kneel and tie, then call me husband. The moment I opened my eyes again, the scene was painfully familiar. Kaysen had only been living in the Hayes house for a few weeks. My parents, still calling me their son in every way that mattered, had sat me down that morning with gentle voices, promising I would always be treated as family. That Kaysen's arrival changed nothing about my place here. I nodded, smiled, thanked them, and then went straight to my room to seethe. Jealousy burned hotter than I remembered. Kaysen was everything I wasn't. An SSS-grade alpha, brilliant, tall, composed, the kind of person professors already whispered about as future faculty. I was just a pretty, second-rate omega, useless beyond my face, coasting on money and pity. So I did what I'd done before. I used every scrap of parental indulgence to make his life hell. That afternoon, I found him in the hallway near the garage. I'd accidentally spilled coffee on my new sneakers and decided he would clean them. I sat on the marble bench, extended one foot, and ordered him to kneel. He stared at me for a long second, jaw tight, then dropped to one knee without a word. His fingers worked the laces with mechanical precision while I watched the red mark of my earlier slap fade on his cheek. When he finished, he looked up, voice flat. "Done. Can I go now?" My brain short-circuited. 10 years of being spoiled rotten by a much gentler version of this man had rewired me completely. Without thinking, I heard myself say, "Husband, rub my legs too. They hurt." The air turned solid. Kaysen's hand froze around my ankle. His grip tightened, too tight. Pain shot up my calf and I yelped. "Husband, you're hurting me." His eyes darkened. "What trick are you pulling now, Arlo?" I yanked my foot back, suddenly aware of how badly I'd messed up. The Kaysen in front of me wasn't the one who would drop everything to carry me to the couch and massage my swollen ankles while murmuring apologies. This one hated me, really hated me, and I just called him husband in front of the security cameras. I scrambled off the bench, heart hammering, one hand instinctively pressing against my stomach. That was when I felt it. The small, unmistakable swell that hadn't been there yesterday. My breath caught. I wasn't just time-slipped. I'd brought the pregnancy with me. Kaysen stood slowly, brushing imaginary dust from his jeans. "You've been seeing someone, haven't you? Some alpha who doesn't mind getting an omega like you pregnant and then disappearing." His voice dripped contempt. "Or maybe you don't even know who the father is." The words hit like a slap. I swung without thinking, open palm connecting with his face again. "You're disgusting." I turned and ran upstairs, slamming my bedroom door so hard the frame rattled. Alone, I sank against the wood and lifted my shirt. The curve was faint but undeniable. This wasn't some illusion. I was carrying Kaysen's child, our child, and he thought I'd been sleeping around. I stayed in my room until evening, stomach growling, mind racing. Going back wasn't an option yet. Dying to return didn't feel right either, not with a baby depending on me. I tried to remember how the original timeline played out after this point. Kaysen's quiet revenge, the terror movie he'd left playing on loop in my room, the stuffed bear with glowing red eyes he'd hidden in my closet. Tonight was supposed to be the night he scared me so badly I'd end up with nightmares for a week. I cracked the door open. The hallway was dark. I tiptoed to the guest room, my backup whenever I wanted to avoid him, and tried the knob. Locked, of course. He'd planned this. No guest room, no escape. Furious, I marched to his door. The room he'd been given was tiny, originally meant for live-in staff we didn't have. I didn't knock, just pushed in. He was sitting on the narrow bed, scrolling through his phone. The faint scent of antiseptic clung to him from whatever first aid he'd done on his own face. He didn't look surprised to see me. "Give me the guest room key," I demanded. Kaysen held up a single silver key between two fingers, letting it catch the lamplight. "I'll trade you. Tell me who the other alpha is." "There is no other alpha." He tilted his head. "Then why are you suddenly acting like we're married? Why the pet names? Why the..." He gestured vaguely at my stomach. Performance. I lunged for the key. We wrestled for a second, him stronger, me angrier, and I ended up sprawled across his bed, breathless. The mattress dipped as he leaned over me, expression unreadable. Jackson's little brother? One of your party friends? Or maybe that TA who smiles at you in lecture? I blinked. I don't even talk to the TA. For the first time that day, something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe, or confusion. I snatched the key from his loosened grip and bolted, leaving him sitting there staring at the empty doorway. Back in the guest room, I locked the door, curled on the bed, and pressed both hands to my belly. The baby kicked once, soft but insistent. I closed my eyes. This version of Kaysen still hated me, but I remembered the one who didn't, and somehow, I had to make him remember too. Chapter 2, Stealing Scents, From Pens to Towels. The guest room bed felt too wide and too empty. I barely slept, hands cradling the small curve of my stomach while the lifelong mark on my nape throbbed in steady pulses. The bond Kaysen had given me years from now still lingered, strong, possessive, and now amplified by pregnancy. Every hour without his scent made my skin crawl, like ants marching under it. I needed cedar and smoke, needed it badly, but the man downstairs would sooner throw me out a window than offer comfort. Morning came too soon. I dragged myself to breakfast, stomach already churning from withdrawal. My parents were gone again. Another overseas trip, so the table held only toast, coffee, and silence. Kaysen sat across from me, eating methodically, eyes fixed on his phone. He didn't glance up once. I stared at the faint red mark on his cheek from yesterday's slap and felt a pang I couldn't name. The driver arrived to take me to campus. I pointed at Kaysen. He's not riding with us? The man shifted uncomfortably. You told me last month you didn't want him in the car, sir. Said it made you uncomfortable. I remembered. I'd been vicious about it. Made sure Kaysen rode his bike an hour each way while I lounged in leather seats. Same university, different worlds. He in the elite AI program, me barely scraping by in liberal arts on legacy money. I'd even warned him never to cross paths with me on campus. I exhaled slowly. Fine. I'll handle it. Classes dragged. By second period, the ache in my nape had spread to my temples. Sweat soaked the suppressant patch at the base of my skull. I needed cedar, any trace of it, or I'd collapse in the middle of lecture. That was when I spotted Jackson Brooks in the hallway. Jackson and I had been reluctant allies in the past, both omegas with too much money and too little sense. He was the quiet, bookish type who lived in the AI building and rarely spoke unless forced. I caught his sleeve. Remember how you helped me mess with Kaysen last month? He raised an eyebrow. You mean the glitter bomb in his locker? Or the fake parking ticket? Doesn't matter. I need a favor. Can you get me one of his pens? Just one. Jackson studied me like I'd grown a second head. You want to sabotage his exam today? That's low even for you. No sabotage. Just the pen. He shrugged. We have a midterm in 30 minutes. If I'm late because of this, I'm telling him it was your idea. He disappeared into the lecture hall. 20 minutes later, he slipped me a black ballpoint, still warm from Kaysen's hand. I uncapped it and inhaled. Cedar, sharp and cool, with the faintest trace of smoke underneath. Not enough to satisfy, but enough to stop the shaking. I carried that pen everywhere for 2 days, tucking it inside my sleeve during class, pressing it to my wrist when no one watched. The scent faded too fast. I needed more. Next, I asked for a notebook. Jackson delivered a spiral-bound one with Kaysen's precise handwriting filling the margins. I slept with it under my pillow, then a keychain he kept on his bag, then a gym towel he'd left in the locker room after practice. Each item bought me another day of shaky calm. Jackson never asked why. He just kept handing things over with the same detached curiosity, like he was observing an experiment. You're acting weird, he said once, passing me a half-used water bottle Kaysen had left on a lab bench. If this is some long con to ruin him, it's working. He's been locking his stuff up tighter every day. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The truth, that I was addicted to the scent of a man who currently wanted me gone, was too humiliating. Friday afternoon, I climbed into the town car, exhausted. My backpack felt lighter than usual. I unzipped it in the back seat and froze. Empty. Not just missing one item. Completely cleaned out. Every stolen pen, every scrap of paper, every towel gone. The car door opened. Kaysen slid in beside me, holding my backpack by one strap. He didn't speak at first, just unzipped it in front of me and turned it upside down. A cascade of my contraband tumbled onto the leather seat. The pens, the notebook pages I'd torn out, the keychain, even the towel folded into a neat square. Pathetic, he said quietly. Petty theft. Really, Arlo? Heat flooded my face. You went through my stuff. You went through mine first. He met my eyes, expression flat. Next time I catch you, it won't be a polite conversation. The driver pretended not to hear. I stared at the pile between us, humiliation burning behind my eyes. This wasn't the Kaysen who would later laugh and kiss my forehead when I did something stupid. This one looked at me like I was dirt under his shoe. I swallowed hard. You don't understand. I understand enough. He swept everything back into the bag and zipped it shut. Keep your hands off my things. He got out at the next light, said he'd bike the rest of the way. I rode home alone, clutching the empty backpack to my chest. The baby kicked once, sharp and demanding, as if reminding me how badly we both needed him. That night, I stood outside the kitchen door watching Kaysen cook. Eggs, bacon, toast, the smell made my mouth water. He plated enough for one and sat at the island, back to me. I waited for him to notice, to offer, to say anything. He didn't. I retreated to my room with a glass of water and nothing else. Hunger gnawed worse than the mark on my nape. I curled on the bed, one hand on my stomach, the other pressed to the empty spot where his scent should have been. Future you would never let me go hungry, I whispered into the dark. Future you would have made me breakfast in bed and rubbed my back until I fell asleep again. A tear slipped free. Then another. I hated this version of him, but I hated myself more for still wanting him anyway. Chapter 3. Breakfast for two. Future you would never starve me. The next morning I woke up hollow. No food in my stomach, no cedar on my skin, just the dull throb of the mark at my nape, reminding me how far I was from the man who once kept suppressant patches laced with his scent in every one of my bags. I stayed in bed until the smell of bacon drifted upstairs. My mouth watered. I forced myself to the kitchen anyway. Kaysen stood at the stove, sleeves rolled to his elbows, flipping eggs with the same focused precision he used on code. 2 plates waited on the island. One piled high with toast, bacon, scrambled eggs, and sliced fruit. The other empty. He didn't turn when I entered, didn't acknowledge me at all. I hovered in the doorway, arms wrapped around my middle. I'm hungry. He slid the full plate toward his own spot and Saturday, then eat something. There's nothing for me. He took a bite without looking up. You know where the fridge is. I stared at the back of his head. In another timeline, he would have noticed my shaky hands, my pale face, and immediately pushed half his plate over with a soft, "Here, baby, you need protein." Now he ate like I wasn't even in the room. Tears pricked my eyes. I stepped closer. The future you wouldn't do this. He paused mid-chew. Slowly he set his fork down. The future me. I nodded, voice cracking. The future you is obsessed with me. Spoils me rotten. Makes breakfast every morning and feeds me bites when my hands are too tired. Never lets me go hungry. Never lets me sleep alone when I'm like this. Kaysen turned in his chair. His gaze dropped to my stomach, still subtle under loose clothes, then back to my face. Something shifted in his expression. Disbelief warring with a flicker of something darker. You're saying in some imaginary future I'm what? Your devoted husband. Not imaginary. I closed the distance, grabbed the front of his shirt, and tugged him down so I could bury my face against his neck. His skin was warm. I inhaled hard, chasing the faint cedar that clung despite the blocker patch he wore. It was barely there, just enough to make my knees weak. You hold me like this every morning, like I'm the only thing that matters. His arms stayed at his sides for a long second. Then, hesitantly, they came around me. Not tight, not gentle, just there. I pressed closer, stealing every molecule of scent I could. His heartbeat thudded against my cheek. You're delusional, he muttered. But he didn't push me away. I stayed like that until the eggs cooled. When I finally pulled back, his shirt was wrinkled from my fists. I didn't apologize. Instead, I walked straight to his plate, sat in his chair, and started eating. Toast first, then bacon, then the eggs he'd already bitten into. He stared. That's mine. I know. I chewed slowly, meeting his eyes. You've kissed me 1,000 times. Sharing food is nothing. He opened his mouth, closed it, then rubbed a hand over his face. You're unbelievable. Future you says that a lot, usually while smiling. He didn't reply, just watched me finish the entire plate. When I pushed it away, satisfied for the first time in days, he finally spoke. If this is another game, it's not. I stood, wiped my mouth, and pointed at him. You're going to start acting like the man I know. Starting now. He snorted. Bossy. Get used to it. From that morning on, I pushed harder. I made him carry my bag to the car even though the driver was waiting. I demanded he walk me to the lecture hall door. Said my ankles were swelling. He grumbled but did it. I sat on his lap during a study break in the library when no one else was around, claiming the chair was uncomfortable. He stiffened but didn't shove me off. Every small victory fed the next demand. But the one thing I wanted most, real, unfiltered cedar, was still locked behind that damn blocker patch. I couldn't get close enough. Couldn't rip it off without him noticing. That night, the craving hit worst. My skin felt too tight, the baby restless, kicking every time I tried to lie still. I grabbed a pillow and marched to his door. Knocked once. Hard. He opened it shirtless, hair damp from the shower, towel slung low on his hips. The blocker patch sat stark against the base of his neck. Fresh, white, mocking me. I'm sleeping here tonight, I announced. My room lights flickering. It's annoying. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed. Go to the guest room. I can't. Doors acting up. But I lifted my chin anyway. His eyes narrowed. You're pushing it, Arlo. I'm pregnant. I get to push. For a moment he looked ready to slam the door. Then his nostrils flared, subtle, but I caught it. My own scent must have slipped past the suppressants. Sweet orange, heavy with need. His pupils dilated slightly. You're in heat, he said flatly. Or close to it. Not heat. Just missing you. I shoved past him into the tiny room. The bed took up most of the space. I dropped the pillow and climbed in without asking. He stood frozen in the doorway. Get out. No, Arlo. I pulled the blanket up to my chin. Future you would already be spooning me, telling me to relax, rubbing my back until I fall asleep. He exhaled through his nose. I'm not him. You will be. He shut the door, locked it. The click echoed. Then he crossed the room in 3 strides, ripped the blanket off me, and loomed above the mattress. His breathing was uneven. Empty suppressant vials rolled across the floor. He'd used them all. His eyes were red-rimmed. You wanted in here? Fine. But you don't get to leave until morning. I swallowed. Promise. He didn't answer, just dropped onto the bed behind me, one arm banding around my waist, pulling me flush against his chest. His blocker patch pressed to my shoulder blade, useless now. Cedar flooded the air, thick and wild, edged with smoke and something feral. I whimpered. The baby kicked hard, as if recognizing its father. Kaysen buried his face in my hair. You're going to regret this. I reached back, threaded my fingers through his. I never regret you. He growled low in his throat. The sound vibrated through me. Chapter 4, marked again, the child no one expected. The room was small enough that Kaysen's heat pressed against me from every side. Cedar crashed over me in waves, raw, unfiltered, edged with smoke that made my head spin. The blocker patch he'd worn all day was useless now. He'd torn it off sometime in the night, and the empty vials on the floor told the rest of the story. Easy-grade suppressants couldn't hold back an SSS Alpha in full rut. I tried to pull away. We can't. Not like this. He caught my wrist, thumb pressing over the pulse point. You crawled in here. You begged for it. Not begged. My voice shook. Needed. His nose brushed the back of my neck. He inhaled deeply, then froze. The sweet orange scent pouring off me had changed. Riper, heavier. Like fruit left too long in the sun. Pregnancy had done that. His grip tightened. This smell. It's not fresh. Someone's already marked you. Deep. The bites still raised. I swallowed. It's you. Bullshit. His teeth grazed the old scar. Who did this? I'll kill him. The threat came out low, lethal. I twisted in his hold, facing him. It's always been you. The mark, the bond, the kid. Only you. He stared, pupils blown wide. Then he lunged. Teeth sank into the exact spot he'd claimed years later, harder this time, claiming what he thought was stolen. Pain flared sharp and bright. I gasped, fingers digging into his shoulders. Kaysen, easy. It hurts. He didn't ease up. Blood beaded around the fresh punctures. His tongue swept over the wound, soothing even as he growled. You let someone else touch what's mine. No one else. I pressed my forehead to his. Look at me. Really look. He pulled back just enough. I lifted the hem of my shirt, exposing the gentle swell. His eyes dropped. For a second, the feral edge vanished, replaced by something stunned, almost reverent. You're pregnant, he said, voice cracking on the word. Your child. He touched the curve with careful fingers, like it might disappear. How? Doesn't matter how. It's real. It's ours. His hand stayed there, palm warm against my skin. Then his expression shuddered again. You expect me to believe this? That some future version of me knocked you up and you… What? Time traveled back to torment me with it. I'm not tormenting you. Tears stung. I'm trying to survive until you remember. He exhaled roughly. Fine. I'll take responsibility. You won't be alone in this. Relief flooded me. I curled into him, cheek against his chest. His arms came around me, tentative at first, then firm. I slept like that, wrapped in cedar and the steady beat of his heart. Morning light filtered through the blinds. Kaysen was already up, dressed, scrolling on his phone. I stretched, wincing at the fresh ache in my nape. You okay? He glanced over. I have class. You should eat. I nodded. He left without another word. I stayed in his bed another hour, breathing in the lingering scent on the sheets. Later that afternoon, Jackson texted, Kaysen's in the campus clinic. Someone jumped him. Come see the damage if you want to gloat. My stomach dropped. I ran the whole way. The clinic smelled of antiseptic and gauze. Kaysen sat on the exam table, shirt off, back wrapped in bandages. Blood had seeped through in places. Holden Kane, his research-obsessed friend, stood nearby, arms crossed, glaring at the door like he expected trouble. Holden spotted me first. You, of course. Kaysen looked up. Arlo. I hesitated in the doorway. Holden kept talking, voice low but carrying. You're the real heir, Kaysen. He's the fake. Why waste time on someone who hired street thugs to beat you up last month? He doesn't deserve you. I froze. I'd forgotten that detail, how I'd paid some guys to rough him up after he first arrived. Revenge for existing. Kaysen's voice cut through. Enough. Holden snorted. I'm just saying what everyone thinks. He's a spoiled… I love him. The words landed like a stone in still water. Holden shut up. I stared. Kaysen kept his gaze on me. I know he's reckless. I know he's cruel sometimes. I know he tried to ruin me the second I walked through the door. But I still love him. Every stupid, selfish part. Silence stretched. I stepped forward, voice small. You're hurt because of me. Old news. He patted the space beside him. Sit. I did. Up close the bruises looked worse. Purple blooming across ribs, split skin on his knuckles. I reached out, then stopped. He caught my hand anyway, laced our fingers. Holden cleared his throat. I already booked the appointment. Omega specialist. Monday. Quick procedure. You won't have to deal with complications. My blood went cold. What appointment? Kaysen's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Holden shrugged. You asked me to find someone discreet. For termination. I yanked my hand free. Stood. You were going to get rid of our baby? Arlo. You said you'd take responsibility. My voice cracked. Future, you wanted this child. Fought for it. Held me through every needle. Every scare. And you were just going to erase it. He reached for me. I stepped back. Don't. Listen. No, tears blurred everything. You're a coward. And a liar. I turned and ran. Out of the clinic, across campus, not stopping until I reached the parking lot. My phone buzzed. Messages from him. I ignored them. The baby kicked hard as if protesting. I found Jackson waiting by his car. He took one look at my face. Need a place to crash? I nodded. He didn't ask questions. Just opened the passenger door. Get in. I climbed inside, shaking. He was going to… Jackson started the engine. Tell me when you're ready. I pressed both hands to my stomach. I thought he was starting to believe me. Jackson glanced over. Give him time. Or don't. Your call. I closed my eyes. The mark on my nape pulsed, fresh, raw, claiming. Kaysen's. Always Kaysen's. But right now, that didn't feel like enough. Chapter 5. Snow on his shoulders, A promised to keep only one. Jackson's apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. He handed me a mug of hot cocoa without asking questions, then disappeared into his room to give me space. I curled on the couch under a blanket that smelled faintly of laundry detergent and nothing like cedar. My phone had died hours ago. I didn't bother charging it. The baby shifted restlessly, little kicks that felt like accusations. I pressed my palm to the swell and whispered, We're okay. We'll figure it out. Sleep came in fits. When I woke, the sky outside was dark, streetlights casting orange pools on fresh snow. Jackson emerged, rubbing his eyes. Your phone's been buzzing non-stop. Charger's on the table. I plugged it in. The screen lit up with notifications, 97 missed calls, all from Kaysen. Text scrolled in endless lines. Where are you? Answer me. I'm sorry. Please. I'm outside Jackson's building. I'll wait. The last one was sent 2 hours ago. I rushed to the window. Below, under a single lamp, Kaysen stood motionless in a camel coat, snow dusting his hair and shoulders. He hadn't moved an inch. His breath clouded in the cold air. My chest tightened. I grabbed my jacket, forgot shoes, and ran for the elevator. The doors opened to the lobby. I burst outside without thinking. Snow stung my face. Kaysen. He looked up. Relief flashed across his features, then vanished behind something guarded. He shrugged off his coat and draped it over my shoulders before I could speak. The wool was warm from his body, carrying faint cedar and the sharp bite of winter. You're freezing, I said stupidly. So are you. His voice was rough. No shoes. I glanced down, socks soaked through. You've been out here for hours. I needed to see you. He stepped closer, hands hovering like he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch. I thought about what you said, about the future, about me being different. I swallowed. And I don't know how any of this is possible. Time. Kids. You showing up pregnant and calling me husband like it's normal. He exhaled, breath white. But I've spent every minute since the clinic replaying your face when Holden mentioned the appointment. You looked at me like I'd ripped something out of you. Because you almost did. He nodded once. I never considered a child. Never wanted one. Thought it would complicate everything. School. The company. Us fighting over scraps of inheritance. His gaze dropped to my stomach. But that's your kid in there. Part of you. And I love every part of you. Even the parts that drive me insane. I stared. Snowflakes caught in his lashes. So I decided, he continued, if this child exists because of us, I'll protect it. I'll be whatever you need me to be. And after, I'll get a vasectomy. No more surprises. Just this one. If that's what it takes to keep you. My breath hitched. You'd do that. For you? Yes. I stepped forward, wrapped my arms around his waist under the coat, face pressed to his chest. He stiffened, then slowly enclosed me, careful like I might break. Cedar surrounded me fully now, no blocker in the way. The baby kicked once, hard as if approving. I don't want you to give up anything else, I mumbled into his shirt. Not for me. Too late. He rested his chin on my head. I already did. We stood like that until my toes went numb. He finally pulled back. Inside. Before you get sick. He carried me up the stairs, scooped me like I weighed nothing, ignoring Jackson's raised eyebrow when we reached the apartment. Jackson just muttered, I'll make coffee, and vanished again. Kaysen set me on the couch, peeled off my wet socks, and rubbed my feet between his hands until circulation returned. I watched him, throat tight. My parents are coming back tomorrow. They'll want us at the office soon. Training for when they retire. He nodded. I know. I'm not fighting you for anything anymore. He looked up. What are you saying? I want to be your secretary. Desk next to yours. Coffee runs. Boring meetings. All of it. A faint smile tugged his mouth. You'll hate it. Probably. But I'll be close. He leaned in, kissed my forehead. Deal. The next week blurred. Parents returned, announced their semi-retirement, handed us keys to the company. I requested the secretary position outright. Colleagues whispered, some sympathetic, some amused. Poor Arlo, stuck fetching coffee for the real heir. I didn't correct them, let them think what they wanted. Kaysen hated the gossip. One afternoon he found me scrolling company forums on my phone, laughing at a thread titled, Brothers or Boyfriends? The Hayes heirs are giving vibes. He snatched the device. What is this? Fanfiction, I said cheerfully. They think we're secretly together. He scrolled, expression darkening. Then he dragged me into the empty break room, locked the door, and pinned me against the wall. Office romance chapter, huh? I laughed, breathless. You read it. Enough. His mouth crashed down on mine, hungry, claiming. I clutched his tie, pulled him closer. He kissed like he was making up for lost time. Jaw, throat, collarbone. My legs gave out halfway through. He caught me, lifted me onto the table, papers scattering. When we broke apart, both panting, I asked, when do we tell them? About us? He stilled. You want to tell them? I'm tired of hiding. His thumb traced my lip. I thought you'd want me as your dirty secret. Keep me in the shadows while you play perfect son. I shook my head. No more games. He kissed me again, slower this time. Then we tell them. Soon. Outside, snow kept falling. Inside, cedar wrapped around me like a promise. For the first time since I arrived here, the future didn't feel impossible. Felt like ours. Chapter 6, two of him and the one who signs the papers. The Hayes family home felt smaller after the snow melted. Parents had caught us twice now. Once tangled in sheets after a late-night movie excuse. Once when I'd slipped into Kaysen's room at dawn claiming nightmares. The second time they'd stormed in with raised voices and a golf club someone grabbed from the hall closet. "What the hell are you doing?" my father roared. Kaysen shielded me with his body while they dragged him downstairs. I heard the thuds, the sharp cracks, his muffled grunts. Hours later he returned. Limping, shirt torn, back a map of welts and bruises. I waited in his room with ointment and gauze. He tried to wave me off. "It's nothing. Take off the shirt." He hesitated, then complied. Purple stripes crossed his shoulders. Broken skin wept in thin lines. I dabbed antiseptic with shaking hands. "You didn't have to take it all." "I did." He caught my wrist mid-motion. "I pulled you into this. From the first day I saw you. Spoiled, mean, beautiful. I decided you were mine. I wanted your eyes on me only. Your anger, your attention, everything. I earned every hit downstairs." I leaned in, kissed the unmarked skin between bruises. "You're an idiot. You're idiot." He cupped my face. They agreed. "We're official. No more hiding." Relief hit hard. I finished bandaging him, then curled against his side. Sleep came easier with his heartbeat under my ear. Months passed in a strange calm. I went to prenatal appointments alone at first, Kaysen buried in code, but soon he cleared his schedule, sat through every ultrasound, held my hand when the tech pointed out tiny fingers. My body changed faster than expected. Energy returned, nausea faded. Test results came back perfect where they'd once been dire. No weekly shots, no emergency calls. The baby grew strong, stubborn, kicking like it already knew both our tempers. Labor hit on a quiet Tuesday. VIP suite, monitors beeping softly. Kaysen paced until I told him to sit. He held ice chips to my lips, wiped sweat from my forehead, whispered nonsense about how brave I was. Then the door opened. A second Kaysen walked in. Older lines at his eyes, hair slightly longer, same cedar scent but deeper, tempered by years. He wore a dark sweater, sleeves pushed up, and carried the same worried crease between his brows. I blinked. "What?" The younger Kaysen spun. "Who the hell?" The older one crossed to the bed, brushed hair from my forehead. "You're early, baby. Hang on." I grabbed his hand. "You're him. From before." Younger Kaysen stepped forward. "Get away from him." Older Kaysen didn't flinch. "I'm here because you both need me." The gland downgrade SSS to A grade so Arlo could carry safely, left gaps. The pup demands full strength. I borrowed your timeline's peak to stabilize him. Younger Kaysen's fists clenched. "You used me as a battery?" "As a father." Older Kaysen met his glare evenly. "This child is ours. Both of ours." I looked between them. Same jaw, same eyes, different scars. "You're jealous of yourself?" Both spoke at once. "Yes." I laughed, then winced as another contraction rolled through. They froze, panic identical on their faces. "Focus," I gasped. "Baby first. Fight later." Labor progressed fast after that. No complications, no panic. When the cries finally filled the room, the nurse placed a bundled, red-faced infant in my arms. Tiny fists waved, dark hair already stubborn. Kaysen, the younger one, leaned over my shoulder. His voice cracked. "He's perfect." I passed the baby to him. He held the bundle awkwardly, like code he hadn't debugged yet. Tears tracked down his cheeks. "I never thought you'd love me. Never imagined this." I touched his arm. "I do. We do." He looked at the older version. "Take them home. Back to where you belong." The older Kaysen nodded once. "Thank you." I sat up, kissed the younger Kaysen's temple. "I'm sorry for everything I put you through. Don't forget me." He swallowed hard. "Never." Light shifted, soft, impossible. The room blurred. When it cleared again, I was in our original bedroom. Years later, same bed, same cedar scent thick in the air. The baby slept in the bassinet beside us. My Kaysen, the one with faint laugh lines and steady hands, lay beside me watching. I rolled toward him. "Miss the young one?" He snorted. "He was a mess. I was better. You were both perfect." I traced his jaw. "Always you." He pulled me close. I never forgot a second of it. Every time you called me husband, every stolen kiss, every fight. I carried it all. Tears pricked. I love you. He kissed me slow, deep, then reached for the nightstand drawer. A folder slid out, property transfer documents, signatures waiting. He set them on my lap. Sign, baby. Everything's yours. Always was. I took the pen. My hand didn't shake. I signed. He gathered the papers, kissed my knuckles. Mine too. The baby stirred, let out a small cry. Kaysen lifted him, cradled him against his chest.